All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to break down a concept that might just completely change how you see your workday. It's called the 3-hour engine.
And we're kicking things off with a pretty bold statement, taken straight from the source. The productivity cult lied to you. See, this isn't about some new app or waking up at dawn. This is about tearing down a myth we've all been sold about what it actually means to be productive.
This right here, this lays out the core model of our modern work lives perfectly. On one side, you've got the illusion of work. You know, all the emails, the endless meetings, the constant switching between tasks that makes us feel busy. And on the other side, that's the actual source of value, that deep, uninterrupted focus where all the magic really happens. So let's get into our first big idea, which is all about dismantling this thing we just take for granted. We're calling it the 8-hour lie. You know, the 8-hour workday is basically a relic, a holdover from the industrial age. But in our digital world, it's just created this new kind of performance anxiety. The source material argues that we don't really fill those 8 hours with real, meaningful work. Nah, instead, we fill them with the illusion of work, just to look like we're busy. And this gets to the absolute core of the problem, what the author calls the toxic gap. Just think about it for a second. You're paid for your time, for being there from 9 to 5. But your performance, your results, they're judged on your output. This clash basically forces us to value just being present over actually being productive. Okay, so if the 8-hour day is totally broken, what's the alternative? Well, the solution is built on a pretty counterintuitive truth about how we're actually designed to work. This one quote was apparently the big turning point for the author. It suggests that we've been getting it all wrong. We are not built for the long, slow, boring marathon of an 8-hour day. We are built for sprints, these intense, short bursts of incredible focus, followed by real recovery. And this leads to a really powerful shift in how you see yourself. The goal isn't to be a digital nomad. I mean, that's just about changing your location. The real goal is to become a digital assassin, someone who is totally focused on precision and impact no matter where they are. It's not about where you work, it's all about how you work. And that is the core mindset of the 3-hour engine. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of this system itself. Section 3, the 3-hour engine. This is the practical, step-by-step framework for making this whole mindset a reality. The entire system is built on 3 simple but completely non-negotiable rules. First, the 90-minute sprint. Second, you've got the 2-task filter. And third, the 3 p.m. shutdown. So let's break down exactly what each of these really means. Rule number 1 is all about the number 90. That's it. All your most important work gets done in focused 90-minute blocks. And these have to be unbroken 90-minute sprints. We're talking radical isolation here. Phone off, notifications disabled, gone. You focus on one and only one critical task. Then, and this part is just as crucial, you take a mandatory 30-minute break to fully recover. And no, that does not mean checking your phone. No screens allowed. All right, next up, rule number 2. The key number here is even simpler, 2. You only work on a maximum of 2 primary tasks in a single day. That's it. What this does is it forces you to be absolutely ruthless with your priorities. The filter is pretty simple. If a task doesn't directly contribute to the 80% of your most important value, you either delegate it, automate it, or just ignore it. For the purpose of your focused work, it literally does not exist. And the third and final rule, the shutdown. Your workday ends at 3 p.m., or about 4 hours after you started, and there are no exceptions. This isn't about being lazy. It's a really powerful psychological trick. That hard deadline creates the pressure and the urgency you need to have that intense focus during your sprints. So, those are the rules. Simple, right? But also kind of radical. And when you combine them, they create what the author calls the unfair advantage. So let's look at the results. Of course, this is the question on everyone's mind. It sounds great in theory, but, does this actually work in the real world? Well, the author's own journey is pretty telling. Week 1 was just filled with overwhelming guilt, feeling like they were slacking off. But then the results started coming in. By month 3, their income had shot up by 40%. Today, they report having double the creative output in less than half the time.
And this chart shows us exactly why it works. The amount of value you produce during 8 hours of fragmented, distracted work is, well, it's shockingly low. But the value you get from just 3 hours of deep, uninterrupted focus, it's exponentially higher. It's all about the quality of your attention, not the quantity of your time. At the end of the day, our work culture has trained us to confuse motion with progress and to confuse activity with achievement. The 3 hour engine just cuts right through all that noise and exposes busyness for what it usually is, just a very elaborate form of procrastination. Okay, so maybe you're intrigued. Maybe you're thinking about giving this a try. But how do you actually start? Well, our final section covers your very first step. First things first, you have to be prepared for the resistance. And it's going to come from inside. You're going to feel guilt and fear. And it might come from the outside. Judgment from colleagues who are still stuck in that old way of thinking. Just knowing this is coming is half the battle. So here's a concrete plan to start tomorrow. 1. Identify your 2 highest impact tasks. 2. Set a 90-minute timer and totally disconnect. 3. Just work with intense focus. 4. When that timer goes off, you stop, you walk away. And 5, you shut down your computer at 3 p.m. no matter what. Just try it for 1 day. And that brings us to the final, powerful takeaway. This isn't just another productivity system. It's a rebellion against a whole culture of burnout. It's about reclaiming your time, your focus, and your life. 3 hours, 2 tasks, 1 life that's actually yours.